Hi folks, my perspective here. Often, when someone says, I can see the curve of the earth when I'm standing by the ocean in front of me, or when I'm in an airplane and I look out the window, I can see the curve of the earth. Now, when you show them that this is not possible, then they'll say, your scale is not right. So in this video clip, I want to address that issue about scale. So scale means more than just simply size. In other words, I can have a scale and I can have a large object and I can have a small object, but the scale can still be balanced. But yet in the system, people are blindfolded. They don't look at the scale in front of them. They rather listen to the scales at their feet, the scales of the snake at their feet. It's a different kind of scale. Then they'll tell you, your scale is not right. Well, they're blindfolded. Whose scale is twisted and whose scale is crooked? Who's looking and listening to the wrong scale? So let's have a look at that. Remember, scale is not just about size, and I went to, in this video clip, hopefully expand on that and help you to reason, think, and look at the bigger picture. So for example, a person says, he has a yacht and I can see the yacht behind the curve of the earth. Now we know that objects get smaller as they get towards the horizon. So let's have a look at this in a bit of detail. Here's a man. He sees two sailboats between himself and the horizon. These two sailboats move away from him towards the horizon. The sailboats are the same size. They're the same distance from him. Everything's perfect because the ocean is flat. So if you're saying that the ocean is curved, well then you cannot see the sailboat on your right in that position. It's simple. That sailboat cannot be in that position because the distance is the same. So that sailboat must be below the horizon and in a lower position. So whose scale is crooked and whose scale is twisted? It's those who are saying that the earth's a ball. The only way that you can see these two sailboats, the same size and the same distance, the earth must be flat because they're in the same position on the horizon. It's simple. So, if folks who go through life blindfolded, and they're not just content with blindfolding themselves, they want their children and everybody else to be blindfolded. So do you want to be one of these people? So let's have a look at this. And remember, we're dealing with scale. Is there justice in this image? Is there righteousness in this image? When someone blindfolds you and tells you not to look? Whose scale is twisted? It's their scale. And this is what the system is about. It's about blindfolding you, blinding your eyes and blinding your mind and stopping you from reasoning and thinking. So let's look at this image. Let's take a pilot. You see, this pilot can come and show you this image and says, I'm a pilot and I took this image and you can clearly see the curve of the earth behind me. Let's apply justice and a scale to this image. If the pilot, what he's saying is true, then the pilot cannot see the earth in front of him because the earth's behind him, right? So what you're seeing is the curve of the camera lens. This pilot is either deliberately fooling you or lying to you, or he's an idiot. Because if I take that ball and I put it behind him and it's the same size, well then my scale is true. Whose scale is twisted? It's this pilot. So if a person's a pilot and he shows you this image and says, yeah, you can see the curve of the earth. Remember, it's not just about size. You have to look at all the elements in the image. So, there are two things in this image that tell you that the earth's not a ball. So can you see them? Take the blindfold off and reason and think. Well, the first is, the pilot would have to be able to see the entire ball earth. The pilot cannot just see a curve of the earth in front of his plane window. It means if he turned his head to the right and he looked down, he'd have to see the back of the ball. And another issue is the sun. The sun would have to be 195 million kilometers in front of him. So therefore the hot spot cannot be in front of him. So what should have happened is, if the sun is 195 million kilometers in front of him, the light can't bend around. That means the earth underneath him would be in darkness. And the pilot would see the entire back end of the ball earth. Now this pilot, right, let's look at this. The horizon is flat behind him and it's flat to his left. But look in the front of him. What do you see? Look at the curve of his helmet. We see the horizon's also in front of him. His helmet's curved. It doesn't mean there's a ball earth in front of him. It's just the curve of his helmet. The earth is flat. How can this pilot take this image? See, this image is accurate and true, because the horizon's also in front of him, but it's his helmet that's curving the earth in its reflection. The same with action cameras. Curve the earth, and people say, well, there's the curve of the earth. It's a curve of the camera lens. Now, how is that justice? How is their scale being honest and true? Remember, it's not just about size. Who is being dishonest? If a pilot shows you an image and it shows you a curve of the earth, he is being dishonest, because it's not possible. Now here's the point, that they use this scale to show you that the earth is curved. When you use the same scale to disprove it, then I say your scale is wrong. Remember, whose scale is it? When you use their own scale, their calculations, or how they're lying, then they say your scale is not true. So simply, I can take this image and stretch it. And that's all they're doing. That's all they're doing. So now, let's look at size and scale. So here's the dark grey ball. If I show you this image, and a man says, I can see the boat and the curve of the horizon between myself and the boat, well then all I do is, if I make the ball bigger, right, the man stays the same size, just the distance between the man and the ship increases. And the problem is that they tell you can only see 10 kilometers to the horizon. It means you'd have to see the ship 20 kilometers away. So do you see the problem? The bigger I make the ball earth, eventually this man would be able to see a quarter of the way around the earth to see the ship at eye level. So whose scale is wrong? It's their scale. Why? Because there is no curve. The earth is flat. There is no curve. And they're just using deception, lies and trickery to trick people. Any pilot who says he can see the ball earth curve on the horizon has to see the entire ball. Doesn't matter how small I make this aeroplane, that does not change. They'll tell you it's about size. This is their line of thinking. They're stupid. And they want everybody to be blindfolded. So would you read a book blindfolded? You'd say, no, well, that's silly. Would you read a book blindfolded and then get someone else to tell you what you've been reading? You'd say, no, that's crazy. Well, why are you doing it in life? Take the blindfold off, look at the horizon, look at the clouds, look where the sun is, look at the shadows. You'll see the earth's flat. You're not living on a spinning ball. You need to take the blindfold off. You see, if I'm reading this book, and then I'm getting someone else to tell me what I'm reading, you say, well, that's crazy. Well, if you're not looking at the world around you, and someone else is telling you what you're seeing, that's the same thing. And when you point out to them that an airplane flying from point A to point B, who flies in a straight line, his altitude has to decrease and increase. Otherwise, an airplane cannot fly in a straight line. The airplane has to fly in a curve. And they'll come up with all sorts of nonsense to tell you that an aeroplane cannot fly in a straight line. So for an aeroplane to fly in a straight line from point A to B, the ground underneath the aeroplane has to decrease and then increase. They'll come and tell you all sorts of nonsense about altitude, that the altitude may be maintained. That means this aeroplane then has to fly in a curve. It's impossible for an aeroplane to fly in a straight line over the curved earth. Yet aeroplanes fly in an absolutely straight line. So whose scale is twisted? So who's being the snake and who's being the scale? You've got to take the blindfold off. Now, so some folks have put this clip on YouTube where a MiG is flying over the earth, and they say, well, there you can clearly see the curve of the earth, and flat earthers are in denial. No, you're just a dumbass, and I'm going to prove it to you. If you're saying that this MiG can see the curve of the earth, then you're a dumbass. What you're seeing is the curve of the action camera lens. So yeah, the image is right. You'll say, well, these images show this MiG flying over a curved earth. So let's have a look at it. They've got a curved earth in front, behind, and at the side of the aeroplane. Right, so let's lay this out in planar surfaces in 3D space. So here's my MiG, right? The MiG's supposed to be flying over the earth, right? You'll say, okay, well, my scale's not right. So I'm making the MiG a bit bigger so that we can see what we're talking about. How can the MiG see the earth in front of him? He's flying over the ball earth. He also sees the earth behind him. And he sees the earth, the ball earth, on his left and on his right. How is that possible? If the MiG is above the earth. Doesn't matter how big I make that ball, the MiG would have to be flying over 4 balls. You'll say, well, that's crazy. Well, that's what you're saying. How can the MiG fly over the earth and see the curve of the earth in front of him, behind him, and to his left and to his right? So what you're seeing is the curve of the camera lens. So let's have a look at that in 3D space. Now it's going to be a bit more detailed. This pilot would have to be flying in a circle like that for him to see the earth in front of him, on his side, behind him, and then on his left-hand side. The pilot can't fly over the curve of the earth. Then how can the pilot see the curve of the earth in front of him? The camera would have to continue to rotate as the plane flies and turns, so that the ball earth can stay in front of the camera lens. That's how stupid it is. Right? It's stupid. The pilot, for him to see the horizon in front of him, would have to be turning his plane like this. Now you'll say your scale is wrong. No, my scale is true, because compare the size of the earth to what the pilot sees. And then what would happen from the perspective of the camera and the pilot? The earth would have to rotate. When that pilot is flying around, if he's flying over a ball and you're saying that's the curve, the ball would rotate when the camera turns and where the pilot turns. And so my scale is true. That's how stupid it is. The pilot, if he flies in a straight line, has to fly over the ball earth. He'll be flying from space and back into space. For the pilot to see the earth on his left and then on his right, would have to do a time warp, flip from one side of the earth to the other side. It's stupid. And people go through life with a blindfold on, and when you show them that it's stupid, they say your scale is wrong. Whose scale is twisted? It's them. They're clowns. So even if a person says, hey, I'm a pilot, and wherever I turn my head I can see the ball earth in front of me, that's because he's an idiot. Can an idiot fly an aeroplane? Oh yes. There are a few of them out there, but there are many pilots who simply see the earth flat and they just keep quiet, and I don't blame them. So as a pilot, he can see the ball earth wherever he looks. So is a lesson for us. Don't go through life blindfolded. Let's take the Bible as an example. If you're reading the Bible and you're allowing someone else to tell you what the Bible says, but what's the point of reading it? You have to read it yourself and understand what it's saying yourself. It's up to you. Don't allow someone else to tell you what the book says. You must read it yourself. You've got to take the blindfolds off. Otherwise, you'll become a clown yourself. If you get taught by clowns, you become a clown. If you're a passenger, right, and you're looking out the window and you're saying, I'm seeing the curve, because that's what I've been told I must see, well, then you're a bozo. So, any pilot who says he can see the ball earth curve on the horizon has to see the entire ball earth. It doesn't matter how small I make this airplane or how big I make it. The principle is true. So look at this and think, how stupid is this when they say this? Why? Because the plane landing has to travel in a straight line to land. He would not need to dip the plane nose down to land. He'd just fly in a straight line and land. In actual fact, the earth would be coming up towards him because he's flying in a straight line. He's not descending. The ground is coming up toward him. Right? Two planes flying past each other. The ground is level. They see each other at the same height. How does this work on a curved earth? Doesn't matter how small I make these aeroplanes or how big I make that ball. The issue is the same. It is stupid. You're being trained by clowns. So, you can go through life and enjoying life. Those people who are being misled and are blind are not having a good life. They're just dumbasses living in a cage. When you're on an airplane and you get served a drink, hold the drink up to your eye level, look at the horizon. They're both level. It means the ground underneath you is level. The earth is flat. Look at this image, right? The plane, the level in the champagne level is at the same level of the seats. Enjoy life. Don't allow these clowns to manipulate you. Because they need slaves. They need dumbass blind slaves. Right? In the system, they're looking for dumbass blind slaves. Don't be their slaves. Reason, think, and look. Make choices and decisions in your life that will benefit yourself. Don't become someone's slave. It's a choice. You have a choice to be a slave or to be a free man. Enjoy your life. This lady's glass is tilted, right? But the champagne is level. If they look out the window left and right, they see the level, the horizon level with them. Tells you the earth is flat. They're not flying over a ball. Right? Doesn't matter how big I make this airplane or how small I make this airplane. The land is level. It's not the scale. It's the angle. If the plane is flying over a curve, they can never drink alcohol. They can never drink. If the ground underneath him is curved, the plane would be always flying at an angle and they could never drink their champagne on an aeroplane. Right? So it's up to you. A scale. The scale means more than size. It's about justice. It's about righteousness, being upright. Problem is that there's always some group of fools, brain-dead idiots, who want to be king. From Nimrod, Alexander the Great to Julius Caesar, they just felt that they wanted to be king and make everybody their slaves and kill everybody so that they can be king. Nothing's changed today. It was like that in the past, and so people became slaves of these clowns. Nothing's changed. It's not about being intelligent. It's the one with the biggest gun and the biggest, dumbest army wins. The point is, you need to wake up. Stop being a slave. Don't let people manipulate you. Reason and think. You've got a brain. Use it. Reason and think. Right? It's like reading a book. You've got eyes and you've got a brain. Reason and think about what you're seeing. So I hope this helps you out. Cheers and thanks for watching.